by giving myself due dates long before the actual due date. So I'm late for my own expectations, but still ahead of everybody else. I can be lazy and be late on my own personal expectations, then get on top of my thing and then knock it out. And by the time I finish knocking it out, everybody else is looking at it and they're like, damn, you've done already. Yeah, that's because I started early and I finished early. I started later than I wanted to, but I finished early. Just like with my podcast. I want to start at the top of the hour. Sometimes I'm halfway through, but I'm 30 minutes earlier than what I used to start last year. So I'm still showing improvement, right? And that's one of the things. It's like you set goals for yourself and then you just follow them whenever you can follow them. So this week was busy. I moved Sunday. Congratulations on the move. Had midterms. Congratulations on the midterms. I'll be on it today. Hey, I'm not expecting you to set up the whole account and set up the whole profile and see what kind of money you have available to transfer over to start investing. That's too much stuff to do in one moment, right? That's like full on marriage from the first date. I'm saying that you need to prioritize your life in baby steps, everything including this, because something like this is a big move to make. You have to see if there's, you just made a move, you spent a bunch of money on movers, you spent a bunch of money on down payments. You might not have the money to put down on starting investing, but it doesn't cost any money to set up the app. It doesn't cost any money to download it to your computer, up to your cell phone. It doesn't cost anything to look into it. And so don't spend any money. Look into it. Don't rush to set up the profile. Download the app. When you have extra time, then you can set up the profile. You don't have to put any money onto the app to set up the profile. See what I'm saying? So you can link your email to it in your spare time. You can link your bank accounts to it in your spare time. Then, when you're comfortable with taking action on it, you can transfer money to your account when you have the money. But you have done all of the hard stuff over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, right? Because finding the app and downloading it takes less than a minute. Week later, setting up a profile takes 5 minutes. A week later, putting up a bank account on it takes less than 5 minutes. In 3 weeks, you could have everything done, except for moving the money over. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. That's the baby steps that I say, like everything that, even when you were talking about your concierge nursing thing, um, and getting a nursing degree. You don't have to, you can have a nursing degree and start up working for somebody else and getting the field experience that you need. Like you can get like your trade in associates and use that to get your foot in the door to start working in the field instead of working in whatever you're doing that's not your nursing field. Or well, no, you said you wanted to do psychiatry. We were talking about the nursing thing with the topic of the day a couple weeks ago. But you said you wanted to do like a counseling or whatever, but it takes uh, um, the capabilities of getting your foot in the door and start practicing it under a licensed professional or observing a licensed professional practicing so that you can learn what to do. And then by the time you get to your first bachelor's degree, you've already been exposed to the field for the 3 years left in your bachelor's degree. By the time you get to your master's degree, you should have been 6 to 8 years exposed to the field and at least 3 years getting paid in the field by the time you get your master's degree. So when you decide to do what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago and do like a concierge psychiatry, because you can provide mental health counseling virtually, you don't have to drive to anybody's house. You don't have to set it up in a physical office. You can have a call center that is a direct line that somebody else can do from their house, and everything is done virtually. All of the appointments can be set up online, and you can have a very little overhead and start up your own business, and then partner with other people that want to do the same thing, where you fit the bill of setting up the business and then they get a smaller cut as employees of the company instead of founders and investors of the company. And you can just have a bunch of people, like I told you before. If under your licensing you're charging $150 an hour, but under the people you recruit you're paying $25 or $30 an hour to do the work, the difference, that other $130 an hour, $120 an hour, you're pocketing that to go towards the overhead of the business. If the overhead of the business is a couple of insurances to protect you guys from the counseling where you're not writing scripts, and if you are writing scripts, that's even better if you lock in a doctor that does scripts and cover them. But you could build a whole business around this model where you might spend 50% of the money that the business brings in, which gives you the ability to expand the business, bring in more counselors, bring in more patients, bring in more people to run the call center and set up the appointments, and eventually cover the mandatory requirement to set up a brick and mortar business, right? And all of that comes from the first step of applying yourself to get something done. So it's always good. He said, I spent $0 on Mover. I am the mover. One friend helped take the furniture to storage and I move the rest. And if I can save money, I will. Yeah, but I mean, if you put gas in your homeboy's car, if you bought him a couple beers, grabbed the pizza or whatever, you still spent something. You didn't have to spend $600 on paying a moving crew to move for you. But it's just the principle of fact that if you did anything for them to compensate them for their ability to help you, it still cost you a little something, something. And if that would have been the money that you would have thought, 20, 30, $40 that you would have thought, oh, I'm gonna start up the account to invest with that money's gone because you had to move. So it's all about baby steps. So I preach to you guys on a regular basis to look at your end goal. So say your end goal is this big ass portfolio. First step, setting up a brokerage account. That's it. So in order to get to your first step completed, find a brokerage account you're satisfied with. Investments, you're looking at the ones that have the lowest cost for buying and selling stocks. Anything that has an unlimited flat rate is better than anything that has a per sale or per purchase rate. So when you're looking at brokerage accounts, and Stash App is trading ETFs towards the values of stocks, so you don't have to wait for the option calls because TD Ameritrade, you have to do like 500 or 700 trades before they give you the ability to do options trading. So you don't find yourself in a position where your money is making money for you until after you've done a bunch of trading. But with Stash App, you can find yourself just moving money around and buy and holds, make a bunch of investment opportunities, and find yourself financially successful just based off of that alone. So it is what it is. Whenever you make the time, because we feel like we don't have time to do things. But the 20 minutes that it took for me to talk to you about that, not of that 20 minutes, about 15 of it was a live podcast, 10 minutes of it was me addressing it with you. The app would have been downloaded and the account could have been set up, even if you were at work right now listening to me on your headset. Not saying that you're slacking on your pimping, it's just that the mandatoriness is based on your motivation. So every decision you make in life comes from how important it is for you to get it started, not get it finished. Because it's not finished because we don't have the motivation to finish it, but it's also not finished because we didn't have the motivation to start. Take for example an exam. Once you start answering the first question, you're just moving. Take for example free writing class. You don't really feel like writing this topic. You don't know what to write. The free writing class, you get to the end of the assignment, you barely wrote a sentence. Other people wrote 5 pages. The lack of motivation is what stops us from being successful. We have not found first person experience benefit from the action, and that's why we're not doing it yet. And that's one of the reasons why it is harder for people who have not made themselves successful yet to find value in the required effort it takes to make themselves successful. And the effort is exhausting. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You can't rush in there, drop 100 grand, and just make yourself a millionaire tomorrow. It is a 20-year plan, no matter how you look at it. Whether you're investing in stocks and bonds and real estate, whether you're starting up a business, creating some side hustles that can then be turned into a business, whether you're working for somebody else, building yourself up in college to get into this high paying job, whatever it takes, you're looking at 10 years of college so that you can have a 15-year career. That's 25 years. It's always going to be a 20-year mission. You just have to find out when you want to start it. And at you said 36 years old before, the longer it takes for you to put your first foot down, the longer it takes for you to get to your finish line. So 20 years from today, you're going to be 56, right? 20 years from today, I'm going to be 62. So we got to start somewhere, right? And I know a lot of people that's watching the show right now between 25 and 67. Some of y'all at 60 years old, it's like, well, shit, if I put 20 years in, I'll be dead. but you could still have you a 5 or 10 year goal, even in your 60s and 70s. You can have a 5 and 10 year goal where things can be a little bit better later than what they are now. And it's your ability to see the things in your life that you are capable of changing that's inside of your control and proactively putting forth your efforts to make that shit change. I tell y'all that at the end of the show every night, but that is really what it is. Proactively changing the things that are, and you got to start with the stuff that's free. That's the stuff that takes the lowest amount of effort, and build yourself up to the stuff that has the largest quantity of effort that doesn't cost money, and then start the cheapest things and work your way up to the most expensive things. It's not doing the hardest, most expensive thing first and top downing the situation. You have to bottom up it and build your foundation. That's one of the best ways to make yourself successful with that. Now, um, oh man, we actually still managed to make it through the opening the opening day-to-day operation before I realized where we were. Now, today we're supposed to be talking about leveraging dating apps for financial freedom. And this is going to be a little bit different than telling you just to make your profile look better. Because I know a lot of people are thinking, he's just going to tell me, put up a new bio. Nah, fuck that shit. It's not just about putting up a new bio. They tell you that it's about finding the one when you get on these social dating apps. It's a soulmate, a connection that's so profound that it's going to change your life forever. For better or for worse, that could be true, but they sell you some sunsets and slow dances and whispered secrets and a hand to hold thought process when you're looking at these things. And the entire multi-billion-dollar dating app industry is going to be built on a single shimmering fantasy called love, right? How many of us ever experienced that? And what if the fantasy is a deliberate misdirection? What if the most revolutionary thing that you can do on a dating app has absolutely nothing to do with romance at all? We're taught to see our profile as a highlight reel for our hearts. But what if your profile was actually an investment prospect, a tool, not for finding a partner, but for getting your tuition paid, your rent covered, or even landing the seed funding for your next business? And what if the smartest financial move that you can make is to treat every swipe not as a potential date, but as a potential dividend? This isn't a thought or an experiment. It's happening right now, all around you. People are turning the gamified world of digital dating into a sophisticated financial strategy. They've realized that in an economy of attention, a dating profile is one of the most valuable pieces of digital real estate that you can own. So, tonight we're going to pull back yet another curtain on this hidden world where we're going to explore the three distinct and frankly unorthodox financial playbooks being run on these platforms. First, the most direct and controversial lane, love as a line item. We're going to be talking about sugar style arrangements where companionship is exchanged for direct financial support. Most men don't participate in this as a receiver. We usually participate in this as the financial provider. We're going to be getting into this. We're going to break down the numbers and the psychology and some of the immense risks behind this. Second, the entrepreneurial lane, from first date to first dollar. And this is going to be where your dating life becomes the top of your marketing funnel. We'll look at how people are turning matches into clients, customers, and collaborators, sometimes without their dates even knowing it. And third, maybe the most counterintuitive lane of all of them, the no date portfolio. This is the strategy of building wealth by consciously opting out, by calculating the huge financial and energetic cost of modern dating and systematically investing that money instead. And this isn't about judging anyone's choices, it's about acknowledging a massive shift on how we view relationships, money, and value. The fantasy of love is expensive. It costs time and energy, and as we all see, a lot of actual money. So the question is that fantasy providing a return on your investment, or is it time to change your strategy? And stick around because you'll never look at a swipe the same way again after tonight's show. All right, let's start with the most explicit strategy, using dating platforms to set up what are commonly known as sugar relationships. To be clear, we're moving beyond Tinder and Hinge and into a specialized ecosystem of websites designed for the arrangements. Platforms like Seeking Arrangements, that's the name of the platform, don't just allow it, they market it. They're built on radical transparency, a mutually beneficial relationship where one person, the sugar daddy or sugar mama, provides financial support in exchange for the companionship of the sugar baby, right? Now, full disclosure, I don't get down like this. However, from a podcast that talks to you guys about how to make, save, and invest money, I have to show you this particular concept and everything involved in it for two reasons. One, it is a way to make money, but it also, two, sheds light on the fact that this can be used against you to take money out of your pocket. And the core concept of this entire podcast is to raise awareness to things that can help you make, save, and invest money. And anything that costs you money contradicts that model. So when I start talking about how it doesn't make sense that you allow yourself to be in a situation that contradicts your goal to make, save, and invest money, I have to cover a topic such as this. Now, this isn't going to be a traditional dating discussion. This is a negotiated contract. The dating contract, right? For a growing number of young people facing a mountain of debt and a shaky job market, it presents itself as a pragmatic solution. And I think somebody has mentioned this on the show before, where um, younger dudes would date what we call cougars, where the cougars could pay for the guy's standard of living. And there are some successful women that are over $100,000 a year women that are willing to spend money on a nice dude and um, buy them gifts and stuff to that effect, which redirects his capital from the things that she bought him to him putting it towards somewhere else. And those dudes typically only do one thing, which is keep themselves physically fit enough for them to be attractive for the women that are paying for them and expel their remaining time with entertaining that female. So this is a thing. But that topic came up in a discussion where we were talking about those men that are looking for wives to spend the rest of their lives with are not looking for a woman that is not willing to fit the mold of a wife. A sugar baby that is looking for a sugar daddy or a sugar mama is not looking for a lifetime companion. They're looking for a financial subsidy. And that financial subsidy, no matter whether it's a percentage of their income or all of their income, is exactly that, a subsidy. The moment that they find the type of person that they're looking for, that they would decide to spend the rest of their life with, they will retire out of this role of being a sugar baby and start fulfilling whatever role they have as whatever gender role they're holding in that relationship. And that's the part of this that we had covered in the show before. But today we're talking about the logic that is actually more seductively simple. Because, I mean, if you're going to spend time and energy on dating, why not get paid for it? Which unfortunately has become the logic of a large quantity of financially challenged women, not the women that can do it for themselves or the women that don't really need this type of prospect, but some of the ones that are in the lower income experience have this capability of, I look attractive, he's gonna occupy my time, I might as well get paid for it kind of thing. This actually makes it harder for you to find the right person on both sides of the fence, specifically because if she is entertaining a dude for money, all the other dudes assume that she's taken or that she's for the streets. If he is entertaining this chick for money, all of the women are going to see his finances being redirected for somebody else, which in both scenarios means that that couple that is together for financial benefit and emotional attachment benefit, it's a relationship of convenience. However, they're blocking themselves from the right person. Okay. But in the meantime, the person in need of money is like, sure, I'll take money from somebody so that I can hang out with them. I could use the money. So, what are we going to be talking about here, numbers wise? It's tricky because there's no official salary because this isn't a real job. But looking at user reported data from online forums gives us a little bit of a ballpark. A monthly allowance is a most common setup for an arrangement involving a few dates a month that may include some intimacy. The allowance often falls somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000 a month. And I know as soon as I say that, Stephen, you're sitting here thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Bro, we've been slipping for like 20 years now because we could have been we could have been making almost 70,000 a year just hanging out. But some sources suggest an average monthly allowance between $1,000 and $3,000 a month is more realistic. Okay. So on a higher end, and this is probably going to be more to the magnitude of the females, experienced sugar babies in major cities can command $6,000 a month or more. These figures align with anecdotal reports from various online communities, though it's important to remember that they may not represent a typical experience. So, one Reddit user in a high cost of living area even reported bringing in $12 to $13,000 a month from multiple arrangements, allowing them to pay off student loans and start investing. Now, multiple arrangements means that he could have had 13 different people giving him $1,000 a month, right? Not necessarily one person giving them $13,000 a month. And actually, it could have been in a situation where he had 26 different people giving him $500 a month. So the effort is gauged by the bargaining, right? Another common structure is going to be pay per meets, often used at the beginning of one of those arrangements. A platonic coffee date that might be the $100 to $200 range, while a standard date could be $400 to $600, and that's what you're being paid for your presence. Plus, you benefit from the receiving of the date. So you're not paying for the date, you're getting paid $100 to $600 to be in the date. I can't make this stuff up, y'all. These are not small figures. For someone starting down the barrel or staring down the barrel of student loans, this can feel like a lifeline. And to be fair, I can assume that this would be one of the reasons why Backpage became so popular until the overemphasized area of intimacy became a thing for that platform. Just going out and hanging out with somebody for the sake of, and whatever happens, happens, and I get paid for my time was a pretty rational concept. It just so happens that Western culture, guys are like, yeah, if I'm paying for it, I'm getting laid. And that spirals it down into something different. Now, The providers are often going to be wealthy individuals, or at least people who have the capabilities of wasting money on stuff. And they're going to be busy people who want the benefit of a relationship, like companionship, intimacy, stuff to that effect, without the time commitment and complexities of traditional dating. So they like that the rules are set up front. For the receiver, the pitch is empowerment. You're framed as an active agent, setting your own terms and monetizing your time. The irony here, though, is that any person that is willing to fulfill their role in a romantic relationship for a fee is the same person capable of fulfilling that same role in a dedicated relationship, but they don't. That's kind of like the what scenario, right? But the arrangements can provide not just money, but also access to mentorship, networking, and a lifestyle that would otherwise be out of your reach. Because if you are the plus one to a person of higher status, you're a plus one to a person of a higher social network, you can be invited to an event that you would have never known existed, meet people that you would have never been able to meet in your life, and then formulate connections while technically on the clock. Because when you go out on a date with somebody in a social event, you're going to meet and greet people and behave respectfully, properly representing the person that you accompanied, right? This is going to be where we have to talk about the huge, often downplayed dark side of this, the language of empowerment, because this can be easily masked as the reality of profound power imbalance. The very nature of the deal, one person paying, the other person being paid, creates a dynamic where the provider holds the control. If the allowance stops, the sugar baby's budget can collapse, and this dependency can be used to coerce or manipulate individuals. Therapists who work with people in these relationships report a consistent pattern of negative mental health effects. Marriage and family therapist Jessica Stebbs noted that many young women enter these arrangements for the same reasons they enter prostitution, which is the financial need. She observes that the emotional fallout is strikingly similar: feelings of shame, guilt, anxiety, and of being felt like they're being used. The act of monetizing your body can lead to a dangerous disconnect where self worth gets tied to the financial arrangement. Now, just taking that into consideration and using it solely for this frequent Western culture first date expectation where a man must pay for a woman's presence on the date. The more frequently this happens, the less she's going to value this experience. And the more negative feelings are going to occur about this. Imagine a woman going on 5 or 10 dates a week with different dudes, never finding the right one. That's upward of 40 dates a month. While, yeah, everything is covered because all of the guys are supposed to be gentlemen and they're all paying for the date. And some of them might even buy her some nice things, coercing her on the date. The fact is that the majority of those guys express the desire of getting laid, not building a lifelong commitment with her. Her observation of this census, where you're talking about 40 dudes a month, you're talking about 500 dudes a year, every year for 10 years, that's almost 5,000 guys. Now you're looking at a self-proclaimed census that ties social interaction to money and also tying sex to that same monetary transaction, right? Safety is also going to be a massive concern here. You're meeting a stranger from the internet in a context where they might feel a sense of entitlement because money is involved in the engagement. Typically, that's how a lot of the first dates work. Is that you guys meet for the first time. The person who's buying is going to feel like they're indebted to at least your ability to finish the evening, if not the evening leading to something more than just the in-person interaction with one another, right? The line between the sugar baby arrangement and illegal sex work can also be perilously thin and legally ambiguous, leaving people extremely vulnerable in certain situations. News reports and personal accounts are filled with stories of harassment, scams, and assault, and even abduction. One trafficking survivor noted that the control dynamics were a provider withholding that payment to coerce certain actions, and this is going to be a classic tactic used by traffickers, which is one of the reasons why I talk about this. Is like there's good sides to this about as far as like getting some money for just showing up, but there's bad sides about this, like, oh well, I left my money in such and such location, and now you got to ride with them to that location to go get the money, and now you're in a location where it's a trap. Then you got some people that's like, nah, cash up me the money up front. And that's why Cash App is so popular, because they're not going to Cash App you the money directly up front. They're going to Cash App a third party the money, and then you're going to spend time with this person. And then a third party is going to break you off after the fact, which is a conspiracy to commit. You know what I mean? Uh, Not too many people think about this when they're getting into this, but this is where dating apps are becoming modernized. And you find that because you have a lot of people where, like, your dating app says dating to marry, and then somebody says, hey, you're looking to hook up. Like, did you read my profile? Right? Even when physical safety isn't compromised, the emotional labor is still going to be immense. So you have to constantly be on, right? Performing a version of yourself that is worth that allowance. So if a man is looking for the wife material, the woman without commitment would have to perform the way women who are in committed relationships refuse to perform. Women who are in marriages refuse to perform. You have to perform that for the little bit of money they're giving you for today's presence. Crazy, right? You might find yourself doing the things that you don't want to do, not because you're forced, but because you feel financially obligated to. And when I say that, remember we said your safety is not at risk here. So you might be doing things like cooking, cleaning, doing a laundry. It doesn't even have to be involving intimacy. It could just be you being obedient to the dude that is paying your salary for the day, right? Sit down when he tells you to sit down, be quiet when he tells you to be quiet. Don't talk back because you're being paid to be what he needs you or wants you to be. Irony that there are people willing to do this for a profit as a way to not have to work, but they're not willing to do this in a committed relationship. I just find that wild. But this is the vibe, and this is a viable financial strategy for a select few that actually finds the ends justify the means. But is it a high wire act with no safety net? Yeah, it demands incredible emotional resilience, strict non negotiable expectations for behavior, and a clear eyed understanding of the risks that they're about to get involved in. So, this is not by far easy money. There's never a location where easy money actually exists. It is, in fact, a kind of job, not necessarily one that's highly respected. And like many jobs, it will involve the commercialization of oneself, and it can come at a very steep personal cost, especially when the intimacy is being utilized with multiple different clients on multiple different dates. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, specifically because when you can fake emotional involvement with multiple clients a month, multiple years out of your lifetime, you forget what genuine intimacy feels like. You forget genuine emotional connection because you fake it on a regular basis for employment, which is one of the reasons why porn stars aren't good wives. Because I mean, if she can fake that for 2 hours of video, nothing you can do for the average 15 minutes without enhancers can be proven to be genuine. What's going on, Wolfman? Good to see you tonight. Now, this is going to be a financial strategy, yes, but one where the potential for personal bankruptcy, both emotionally and psychologically, is just a high, and a potential for financial gains being just as high. Now, let's shift gears to our second lane, a strategy that's less about direct payment and more about leverage. And we're not talking about blackmail or espionage. This is where your dating profile stops being about finding love and starts being the top of your business's marketing funnel. Is this playbook every match for itself? Probably not, but it is going to generate a lot of leads. Every conversation is a discovery call, and every date is a potential client conversion. This approach is a natural evolution of the attention economy. If dating apps are built to keep you swiping, they are by design engines for capturing attention. So the entrepreneur mindset asks, why let that attention go to waste on small talk when you can channel it towards something you're building? Unlike sugar dating, this strategy often operates in a social gray area. It's about subtle or sometimes not so subtle pivoting and personal chats into a professional one. While they aren't hard status like some of the other things, this anecdotal evidence is going to be everywhere. So let's break down some of the tactics. The most direct method is the profile as a landing page. Here, you bake your profession right into your profile. The bio isn't just I love hiking and tacos, it's fitness coach who loves hiking and tacos. Let's talk about your goals. IG your fit IG at your fit biz, right? This does two things. First, it filters out people who aren't interested. Second, it plants a seed. The date itself becomes a soft sell opportunity. You're not handling anything. You're not handing them the business. You're not trying to uh give them any business cards. You're not, trying to promote yourself with the appetizer, but you are embodying your brand. The goal is to demonstrate value in a natural way. A date that goes nowhere romantically can easily turn into a new client or a referral or a new social media follower, right? This bleeds into the second tactic. And I know that a lot of women utilize a portion of this tactic when they communicate with other individuals. And almost everybody with Instagram does this because I mean, if you're communicating with somebody, can I get your number is a 1990s behavior pattern. 2025, it's let me get your Snapchat, let me get your Instagram, let me get your TikTok platform, whatever it is. If it's a Twitter, let me get your Twitter, let me get your YouTube channel. Whatever your handle is, whatever your primary social media profile is, let me get that mode of contact and then I'll DM you. Not let me get your direct phone number and I send you a text message or a phone call. Not let me get your direct email and I send you an email. So ultimately, every interaction that you make, at the very least, you get a follower on your social media platform. Even if the interaction doesn't end well, you end up with a follower before it ends badly. So, bleeding into the second tactic, the content mining operation. From this perspective, every bad date, every awkward chat, every ghosting incident is content. Um, Anonymized, of course, but it's there. Dating stories, are going to be relatable, and it's gold for platforms like TikTok and Instagram. So a creator can build an entire brand around their dating life, monetizing through ad revenue or sponsorship. And the date becomes the research and development for their content business. So you go out on dates with people, you have the camera, you let them know that you're going to be recording the date, and whatever happens on a date happens on a date. You can be like first person discreet with like a body cam or a head camera or something like that, or you could be third person um direct, having a person following you with a GoPro and two people following you with a GoPro, like following y'all on this date so that they know like this is going live. And whatever happens on the date happens, right? Some dates you can just be an asshole just for clickbait, and some dates you can be a perfect gentleman to the person that's being an asshole. And at the end of the day, you got clickbait because either they're gonna treat you bad unnecessarily, or you're gonna treat them bad unnecessarily. And it doesn't matter how people respond to it. What matters is that they're clicking on the channel. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe while we're here. He said, best women I ever met were pulled from the grocery store. That brings me to a side topic that you're going to find the quality of person based off of where you find them. Grocery stores and when they're working on their job is more likely to find a more noble of a person than in a nightclub or in a shady area. Malls are not necessarily good, but malls and other places where frivolous spending on insignificant luxuries is some of the worst places to go to find the right person, unless they're the staff in the place, right? Because if you meet somebody in a place where they're actively wasting money when you meet them, what makes you think that their behavior patterns are not going to be financially wasteful? It's just like if a chick meets a guy at a bar and he's drunk at the bar. If he frequents this bar quite often, however much money he pays for his bar tab on this day is however much he pays on his bar tab most days out of the week. And that's how much money he pays every week at the bar. And that's how much money comes out of his annual salary. So if he's there every night, even if it's $50 a night, that's like $350 a week. That starts bleeding into like 1,200 to $1,400 a month, which starts bleeding into like 14,000 to 15,000 a year, right? And if you're putting away 900 to $1,000 a year into a brokerage account that's pulling like 18% or 17% interest, you're likely to find yourself drawing back over $1 million off of just putting away a grand over the course of 10 to 20 years. So there's no reason why your drinking habit wouldn't make you a millionaire if you invested it instead, which we're going to be getting to that later today. So you got to know what you're getting yourself into. But outside of financially, if dude is getting drunk when you meet them and then y'all go on your first couple of dates where drinks are involved, likely this person might be an alcoholic and now you're dating an alcoholic and you knew that when you first met them. Then when y'all start moving in together and you have no place to put fresh foods in the fridge because there's a 24 pack of Bush in there, you know that this is a red flag for you, but you ignore it until like 4 months into a relationship. So think about who you're getting and where you're getting them from, because that definitely plays a huge role in their personality, right? You only find a person in life when they're conducting business, when they're trying to turn a profit, when they're trying to save and invest money, then that person's mentality is likely self improvement. And if their personality is likely self improvement, you're likely to improve if you match with this person, right? Now, you also have the more unorthodox funnel plays. Now, I've read stories of a girlfriend suggesting her partner's new restaurant for all her hinge dates. The match pays. The restaurant gets a new customer and the business grows. So, for example, she goes to dates and she selects the place. He pays for the stuff. She selects her homegirl's restaurant. She brings all of her dates to her homegirl's restaurant. They like the food. they start going back to that restaurant. It only works well if she doesn't have her new date at the same restaurant as her old date. But if she's going there one date at a time, the reputation of this restaurant grows. And if she's with a friend who's going to provide her with a little bit of commission off of the reoccurring customer base, she's likely to turn a profit off of bringing her date to that restaurant. It's guerrilla marketing using the dating ecosystem as a free ad platform. And if you didn't think about this before, now you know. Another play is event recruitment. A business coach might use their matches to fill a workshop, shifting the conversions from the app to an invite. Hey, I'm actually hosting a mixer for young professionals next week. You should come. And they could send that to like 25 chicks and they all show up. More effective when a woman does it because she can get 10 or 15 guys to respond to that. Like, yeah, I'll come and see what you do for a living. Now you've got a room full of dudes in a fucking seminar. The host is the chick that invited them all. But where's the ethical line, right? It really depends on the transparency. Stating your profession up front is one thing, but luring someone on a date under the pretense of romance only to hit them with a hard sell for your pyramid scheme is deceptive. The successful execution hinges on providing real value first. So, if the other person feels like a sales target, they'll bolt. And this is why platforms like Bumble try to formalize this with Bumble Biz. The exact same antics, just transition to a different part of the platform. A separate mode for professional networking. It acknowledges that our personal and professional lives are blurring. However, many users report the real action still happens on the dating side of it. Tech investors like Sarah Kunz openly told Fortune she used Tinder for her business, meeting founders and making connections. Anecdotes from online forums echo this exact statement, with users accidentally discovering that dating apps can be incredibly good networking tools. So while you're not finding the love of your life on these dating apps, you're definitely finding the source of subsidizing the startup of your company. The first date to the first dollar lane is about leverage. Unlike sugar dating dependency, this strategy is about building an asset that you own, your business, the financial upside, less direct, but has much higher ceilings and offer far more control. The risk here isn't physical danger to yourself, but reputational damage. And honestly, in America, not too many people hold their reputation to a higher standard, but you probably should. So, if you're not careful performing this task, you can come across as spammy or tarnishing your personal as well as your professional brand at the same time. It reframes intimacy as a transaction, not of money for companionship, but of time for potential business value. And for the modern entrepreneur, it's an increasingly logical conversational tool, if anything. And that's going to bring us to our third and maybe most radical playbook of all, the no date portfolio. Build wealth by not dating, which Steven and I are like, that's where we're at right now. I'm not spending a fucking dime on this bullshit, right? Now, this lane is built on a powerful premise. Modern dating, especially on apps, has become incredibly expensive and time consuming with ultimately no favorable results. The no date strategy does a cost benefit analysis and concludes their resources, which is money, time, and emotions, are better spent building their own financial independency rather than continuously chasing failure. And this isn't about being anti romance, it's about being pro solvency. It's a conscious withdrawal from a system that feels rigged. Most men under the age of 45 are less valuable to the majority of women if those men are not making well over $100,000 a year and are 6'5". So I'm 5'6". If you're 5'8" or 5'10" and you're not making a $500,000 a year, not too many women are trying to talk to you, right? Doesn't matter what you got going on. Once they know, and they're going to know because they're going to see it in some of the clothes that you wear, they're going to see it in the things that you buy, they're going to see it in the vehicle that you drive, and they're going to see it if they pass by your house. And once they know that you're coming from a place of financial value, they actually pivot and come back and start trying to give you the time of day, just like you see with the gold digger apps or the gold digger videos. But until females observe and identify your financial value, whether they identify it based on your age being 60, 70 years old, or they identify it by your financial status with the way you carry yourself, with the cars that you drive and the clothes that you wear, um, they will start coming around you based on what they see. And then what they think is behind what they see, because they might see a Porsche that's a rental and think you got 10 of them. They might see the house that you're in right now as your house when that is a house sitting gig. Regardless of the fact, if they think you've got more than what you've got, or if they know that you have what they want, then they start paying you more attention. And it takes men 3/4 of their life to get to a position where women start looking at that man like that is the guy that I want, or at least one like that, right? And we also understand that throughout our life, most men that end up in the friend zone have a girl using that man as the foundational blueprint of what she wants a man to be like. So she wants a man to be just like you, just not you. So you're in a friend zone and she's explaining to you how the other guy is not what she wants. And she can't find the guy that she wants because she's looking for a guy like you, but not you because she doesn't want to date you. Right. And then eventually you make it to an age where they're okay with it. Typically after they've run the marathon and found themselves in a position where they're not holding any more value. And now they're like 35, 45 years old. And now they're like, oh, that's the guy for me now. But shit, when they was 18, it's like, no, no, he's not worth it. These numbers, where you add up the cost versus the benefit, staggering. Let's start with the hard costs, the dating burn rate. First, the app subscription. They're designed to push you to pay for whatever plan they got going on. Anything from free to mandatory pay. Whether you have to pay per video communication, pay per text, standard membership fee where you have to pay per month in order to have unlimited contact. They will put you in a scenario where you've talked to 10 or 20 different individuals or 10 to 20 different times, and one or three conversations lead to something that you want to follow up with. And then they hit you with the ad. You must pay to continue this conversation. Hinge Plus costs around $17 a month. Tinder top tier platinum plan can hit about $50 a month. For luxury apps like The League, VIP access can be as much as $2,500 a month. Then there's the cost of the date. This is just the app, bro. $17 a month is like $170 a year. $50 a month is almost like $600 a year. $2,500 a month, that's almost $30,000 a year on just the app. Dateflation, This is real. 2025 BMO report found the average American adult is spending $2,279 on dates yearly, at the very least, with a single date costing nearly $168. Other surveys from 2024 put the average cost of a date between $59 and $169. Even Match Group's 2022 study found the average single spends $130 a month on dating. Surveys by Self Financial also noted that singles spend about $50 on prep, like clothes and grooming. And this is going to be for the men's side of things because women are spending like $800, $900 on Brazilian weave, plus paying the woman to put it in, then their makeup, which is anywhere between $200 and $700, and then the outfit. Okay. And that might not even include the cost of the nails, up to $200 for some nails and the eyelashes, right? So that first date might run a woman like 3 grand. And if you're witnessing that, it might actually be an average of like $800, $900 a month worth of maintenance, right? The upkeep. So let's build a conservative monthly budget for an active dater. If your app subscription is about $40 and your pre-date spending is about $50, if you date two modest dates per month, that's $200. So total monthly dating burn rate is about $290, including the app. That's going to be $3,480 a year. The no date portfolio strategy sees that $290 a month not as romance, but as a missing investment. They just wasted that. The opportunity cost is not there. And this is where compounding comes in. So let's say instead of spending that $290 monthly, you invested it in a simple index fund tracking the S&P 500 based on the S&P 500's history averaging around 10%. And I've got stocks that you find in a membership that are hitting like 18 and 20% just using the S&P 500. Of course, past returns don't guarantee future results, but here's what could have happened. After 5 years of no dating, your portfolio could be worth around $22,500 just with 10%. Now, clearly, hitting the 18 to 20% that I'm hitting off of the dividend rotation strategy, you likely would have double. You likely would have closer to $44,000 or $45,000 inside of 5 years just by taking your dating capital and putting it into a brokerage account. After 10 years, you're likely to see something around $60,000. If you're doing the 18 to 20% that I'm doing, you would likely see closer to 120,000. After 20 years, it could be worth nearly 220,000. And if you're doing that 18 to 20% that I'm doing, you likely would see something closer to 450,000. This is the mathematical reality of redirecting your dating budget into asset building machines. By simply opting out of the dating grind, you could have a down payment for a house or a fully funded retirement account. But it's also about reclaiming your time and your energy. A 2024 Forbes Health survey revealed a shocking statistic of 78% of dating apps users feel burnt out. Users spend on average 51 minutes per day on these apps, and that is over 310 hours a year spent swiping and having conversations that go absolutely nowhere, right? What could you have done with that extra 310 hours and an extra $3,500 a year? And this is just opportunity cost that we're analyzing right now. Because truth be told, as you're building this wealth of not going on dates and putting your money aside, if you're putting them into dividend paying brokerage accounts, you could find yourself in a position where the dividends from the brokerage account could pay for a date if you found a person valuable enough for you to invest the time. And now instead of taking money out of your paycheck and going to pay for the date, You're taking the reimbursement from the brokerage account and paying for the date and taking your paycheck and putting it on the brokerage account. The interest is ultimately a profit instead of spending the principal on the date. Now, this burnout is going to be fueled by the apps themselves. The paradox of choice leads to decision fatigue. Consistent rejection wears you down. Women do not experience as much rejection as men. Women find themselves more annoyed by all of the potential offers. So that self entitlement that develops, women do not understand the frustration until they cross over that threshold where their age disqualifies them. Then they start experiencing the frustrations that men have experienced their entire lives, right? Once women start experiencing rejection on the same magnitude that men experience, it's like, damn, tough out there. You get a whole new mentality. Like, shoot, I should probably be nicer to these dudes because it's hard out here. And truthfully, it is long term companionship is hard to find in a culture where everybody's looking for the next hookup and everybody else is looking for the next dollar. And since constant rejection is going to wear you down, check this out. The top reason for the burnout, cited by 40% of the users, is simply the inability to find a meaningful connection. So it's not that they're not talking, it's not that they're not getting connections, it's not that they're not going out on the dates. It is the fact that they went out there and failed to make the connection that they were looking for. He said, "Oh God, another love channel." No, actually, that's probably the only thing I don't promote. That's probably the only thing I don't promote on this channel. I do not promote love, and it's not because I'm against it. It's because logically and rationally speaking, in order for you to find true love, love is a choice. And because love is a choice, you have to decide that you want to be with this person. So ultimately, you can learn to love somebody. So this isn't a helpless scenario where your heart wants what your heart wants and the rest of your body has to follow your heart. Or your junk wants what your junk wants and the rest of your body has to follow your junk. The fact is that you consciously choose to stay with the person that you're staying with. And he said, just come over from one crazy to another. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just the oh, you just came over, you just came here from a crazy channel. Well, you missed an hour and 15 minutes worth of financial information about dating where you can make a bunch of money doing it. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's out there. It's a possibility. But the thing about it is that, they've got a lot of dating apps out there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Women are going to be beating men down. So here's one of the biggest issues with the social construct of abuse in relationships. Men do not report abuse nearly as much as women, not because the abuse doesn't occur, but because masculine men are supposed to be able to take that, right? Society expects that. Women can hit men because women are emotional. Men cannot hit women because that's abusive. But hitting is wrong and hitting is abusive no matter who does it. Men cannot talk down to women because that's abusive. Women can talk down to men because women are emotional. So if she's scared, angry, sad, shocked, whatever, she can act irrationally, throw stuff on men, hit men with stuff, and it is okay because she's a girl. It is, but equality dictates that if you mistreat the man, that you can experience the exact same thing in reciprocation. So if you can beat him up, equality dictates that you should get beat up in return. Not condoning it, but the fact is that we're in a society where women do not have the accountability or take responsibility for negative behavior. Most women will cheer for a woman beating up a man and throwing stuff on a man and tearing up his car and burning his house down and setting his clothes on fire and everything to that effect. And it's good for him. He deserved that because of what he cheated or whatever. But the fact is that if he were to burn her house down and tear up her car and set her clothes on fire and destroy her life the way the woman is destroying a man's life, the woman would still be in a victim position. She's in a victim position while negatively mistreating another person. But if it were to happen to her, she would still be in a victim position. I'm from a man of uniformity. At the end of the day, if it is wrong when it happens to you, it's wrong when you do it to somebody else. Okay. If it's not okay when it happens to you, it's not okay when you do it to somebody else. So the fact that women are beating on men and this is a thing, I tell women on a regular basis. Like my mom taught me to treat a woman like a queen, but my dad, he's like, hey, equality, boy. Women like to pick and choose how equality works. Yes, but see, if it's going to be an arbitrary observation that you're only equal to be in charge, you're only equal to be the authority, but you're not truly equal because when responsibility and accountability shows up, you automatically divert back to the traditional requirement for the man to take that hit. If you're throwing punches in a match and then you're going to tag me in so that I can take punches on your behalf, then what the hell am I fighting for? If I'm going to be the one that's going to take these punches and you're going to be on the ringside as my coach and you're going to back me up, you're going to back my play, I'm the fighter and then you're going to follow my lead. But if you're going to get in the ring and you're going to throw all these punches, you're going to get your ass whooped. I'm not about to get my ass whooped for you and you're going to be in charge. And a lot of women don't like that. Women are like, oh no, he's insecure because he doesn't like the fact that I'm independent. No, it's not that I'm insecure, bro. If my male best friend walks out of this store without paying for shit, they are just as abandoned as if you walk out on this date without paying for the tab. Like, I'm not fucking with that. At the end of the day, we're not going anywhere. Okay. But when they pick and choose how equality works, that's when relationships fail. That's when interactions fail. Right. The system is failing at its stated purpose, yet we're going to keep pouring resources into it. I don't understand why. The no dating portfolio is a declaration of independence from this exact cycle. It's about building a life so fulfilling and financially stable that a partner becomes a wonderful addition to it, not a necessity. You're not dating this chick because she's helping you pay your bills. And that's what a lot of women think that, oh, well, I'll pay 50-50. You are financially offering to subsidize my expenses. Then you're in the relationship with me going to demand lifestyle creep. So even though I might have lived under $50,000 a year and you might have lived under $50,000 a year, because our combined income, we can afford more, you're going to demand that we move out of whatever stable scenario we're in and move into a bigger place that costs more money and buy newer vehicles that cost more money and upgrade our cell phone so it costs more money and buy a bunch of subscriptions that cost more money and buy new clothes and buy new this and buy new that cost more money. And that lifestyle creep took us from individually surviving alone to financially struggling together. And we ultimately, as a couple, failed because we can barely get by together when we were doing all right individually. And usually in those scenarios, the woman is mad at the man, not the other way around. He doesn't have enough to maintain the standard of living. She's putting in some to cover the spread, but because she's putting in some, now she has majority vote. However, even if you split the bills down the middle, even if you split the bills down the middle, the extra money that he's not spending on bills because a lot of Americans are not investing the way they should. So 73% of Americans, men and women alike, are not putting their money where they should. And ultimately, since he has extra money, he's going to take the money that he has and buy everything his girlfriend touches, whatever she says she wants. If she creates a wish list of stuff, he's going to do whatever he can to fulfill that wish list, which is noble to say the least. And it is not her fault that men are conditioned to behave this way by their mothers, by society, and whatever. But the dynamic is that it's ultimately not 50-50 because if you put up $3,000 towards a standard of living, and he just spent $5,000 on you because he had extra money because he's no longer spending $7,000 on the standard of living. You're not spending $3,000 on the house. because you got it all back. It was a rebate. You paid the mortgage and got a fur coat in return. Like what? It's not 50-50. It's like 70-30, 80-20. You got to understand. This is the way it is. Right? So when someone follows this path of the no dating rules, they do this because when they decide to date, they will do so from a position of immense power. And this is where the feminist women are going to get pissed off because those men aren't looking for someone to save them from their current situation. They've already built their own stability. Okay. This is going to be the lane that is the ultimate play for control. Because while lane one outsources financial stability and lane two relies on converting others' attention, lane three is entirely self reliant. It transforms the frustrating act of swiping left on incompatible partners into a satisfying act of adding another deposit to a portfolio that is guaranteed to love you back. Because the more you put into your stock portfolio, the more it gives back to you. The more you build up, the more you have left over. The more you have left over, the more you can use later on. Once you reach the age where you can no longer do what you're currently doing for work, and it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what it is, you could be doing something that's easy like a call center. And I say it's easy even though it's very mentally stressful, strenuous. Okay. But even that, you're going to reach a point where you can't do it anymore. Your brain hurts, your blood pressure's going up, you can't do it anymore, right? It could be a physical labor job. You can't do it anymore. Your back hurts, your knees hurt, your ankles hurt. It could be a physical labor job. Your ladies on the pole, your knees hurt, your back hurts, your ankles hurt, your toes can't do it no more. You can't tap dance on the ceiling on in the stripper pole and spin down to the floor no more. That everybody reaches an age where they retire out of what they do. Okay. Even all the professional wrestlers retire out of what they do. Even all of the professional singers, where the most effective thing they're doing is walking back and forward across a 200-foot stage and yelling into a microphone, they retire their vocal cords. They retire. Everybody stops at some point. And when you stop, where is the money going to come from? When you build your portfolio, when you build a financial future for yourself, you know where the money's coming from. But when you're not building that portfolio, when you're not building that financial future, you have no fucking clue where the money is going to come from. All you know is that you got to go to work today so that you can get your paycheck in 2 weeks. And for those of y'all that are working for the government right now, the TSA agents, y'all ain't got no fucking money since the beginning of the month. Y'all got cut off on February 13th, and it's March. Y'all, y'all not gonna see no money till probably the middle of the month. This gonna be your first 2 week paycheck that don't come in again, right? And this is the second time it's happening in 8 months because you just went 6 weeks without pay in October and November. So imagine that 6 week furlough was a 6 year unemployment line. You would have to find another job. That's not retiring. That's just changing occupations. So these three lanes, three totally different ways that you can look at dating apps on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. It can be a tool for direct income if you utilize it correctly. It could be a marketing engine, or it could be a liability that you can eliminate for long term investments. Love as a line item offers immediate cash, but is fraught with personal risk, emotional tolls, and a fundamental power imbalance. Okay. And from first date to first dollar, it is entrepreneurial approaches that you're leveraging attention just to build an asset that you own. But it walks an ethical tightrope. And the no date portfolio is the ultimate move for self sovereignty, a quiet rebellion that argues the best investment is in yourself. Because, truth be told, it's going to work better for men than it will for women. And the reason why it'll work better for men than it is for women is because once the man makes it to the financial stability, he can wait for the right woman that will cooperate with his expectations. However, women are not going to be able to wait for the right man to cooperate with her expectations. Why is that? Because the men that are financially unstable, the men that are mentally immature, are going to be the men that are in between 16 and 30. Women that are dating those men are not going to be dating men that are qualifiable husbands, right? Because they don't have their shit together. However, those women will make perfect sugar mamas, cougars, right? Now, by the time that gets it to financial stability, he's likely going to find someone that is more qualifiable for his expectations, especially men that are chasing fatherhood. You're dating a woman that can't make you a father, you're likely going to end up redirecting your attention to someone who can. Men can create children at 80 years old. That's not likely for women. And as a lot of women have put out there on social media, is that one of the major things that defines the value for women besides sex is their ability to reproduce. So when you lose that ability, I mean, at the end of the day, the value starts to plummet. And this isn't taking shots. This is pointing out facts. A woman's value exists from their birth. If they maintain that value and not provide unnecessary intimacy and extra children all over the place for every person that buys them a rose and provides them with a steak and potatoes, then their value is actually going to end up being higher. Because since most men in modern 2025 are looking for virtuous women with low, if not no body count, the more times a woman gives it up, the lower her value gets. The more children that are born out of wedlock, the lower the value gets. So, ironically, I don't understand why women are not promoting no sex till marriage mentality since their value exists until they put out. So why not only put out since women are demanding marriage? Because men aren't demanding marriage, women are demanding marriage. Why are women not holding out until they get married? That way they can maintain their value until a man is willing to dedicate 20 to 30 years of his life to her. Because as I talked about on the show on I do believe Saturday or Sunday of this week, is the value of a woman is how much it costs to get her ultimately. If you and you don't have to like it, but imagine this though, like I said before, if you can be obtained, $100 a date for 10 dates is $1,000. That's how much it costs. But if I had to commit to you for 20 years at a $50,000 a year income, that's $1 million. Which one's more valuable? The $1,000 worth of dates or the 20 years worth of standard of living? Think about it. Then when we start talking about this same dynamic, women from the Philippines guaranteedly willing to give you 10 to 15 years of their life before they're like, you know what, this isn't going to work. It costs almost 10 grand to go there, get one, and bring them back. It costs signing a contract with the US government for a 20 grand guarantee to this female for the entire time she's in the United States, whether she's with you or not. And then she's still going to give you the 15 to 20 years. Well, if she's signing on for a guaranteed 20 grand a year from you, and she's got your standard of living, and it took you 10 to 20 grand to bring her here, and she's going to be valued a whole lot more. So, for those people who hate passport bros who are hopping on planes and flying to another country and grabbing a woman and bringing them back, a guy that's willing to spend $1,000 on you for one night versus a guy that's willing to spend $2,000 to fly to another country, $5,000 in that country, $4,000 to fly both of you back, $2,500 for your citizenship, and then 20 grand plus for you to stay here. The second one ultimately is more valuable and by far more expensive. So, but the difference is the second one is giving you a guaranteed 15 to 20 year commitment, 10, 15, 20 year commitment. The first one, the $1,000 for the one night, you're guaranteed the one night. Where's the value? Opportunity cost. You threw away $1,000 for 4 hours at the most. Versus the other one, you have a lifetime. And this isn't about convincing them to stay, right? It's the dedication to making it work. That's something that a lot of people don't think about. So the no date portfolio is going to be the ultimate move for that self sovereignty. Okay. What connects all three is going to be shared disillusionment with the fantasy that dating apps are selling, which is you're going to inherently, guaranteedly find love from this app. You're not necessarily going to do that. If you find the right partner, if you find the right individual that is willing to cooperate and comply with your agenda, and you could roll the dice on that. You could, like, for example, Christian Filipino, they have a travel agent that contacts you. Like, they literally call you and connect you with the other person. You're more likely to get a person that might actually be seeking citizenship and come with you, right? But look at how the laws changed because so many people were coming over on that expected marriage visa, then divorcing the man, and then ended up getting citizenship and getting alimony and not actually staying with the dude. Now they have changed the laws to where their stay in America is contingent to the first 2 years of their marriage. But having a somebody from the app reach out to you and try to facilitate the engagement. And from what I've seen, it was something like a $250 for a month of service, which is still more expensive than the $17 for Hinge or the $50 for Tinder. But $250 for somebody that'll connect you to another person, you're likely to find a person, connect with that person, and negotiate an arrangement. Hence, lane one. And that arrangement can turn into a decision to dedicate yourself to that person and that person dedicate themselves to you. Right now, if all works out, you're likely not going to be on that app more than 30 days, 90 days at the most, which at $250 a month, that's $750. Again, you're averaging about 25 or $30,000 to go to another country and grab somebody and bring them to America. The dynamic here, look at the expense though. So as a higher value man, if you're putting away your capital and you're building up the wealth, you're putting your money away until you reach that point where if you're getting $250,000 or $500,000 worth of brokerage account and that's paying out, even if it's paying out at 10%, $500,000 is $50,000 a year. $50,000 a year, you only need $25,000 or $24,000 to get a long-term visa in the Philippines. And with Thailand, if you can show them you got $500,000 sitting somewhere, they'll give you like 5 years. All you got to do is just show up and live off of the investment. So now you're not playing a game that is not beneficial to you. You're putting your money away, you're stacking up your capital, and then you can take the dividends off of your investment and relocate to a market where the dating is actually going to be more intentional for long-term relationships. And your portfolio can pay for that, not your 9 to 5 job. And then whatever you end up with can be subsidized by your portfolio. Y'all got to understand, people are waking up to the fact that modern dating is an economic system. It has a cost and a risk and potential returns, but the returns only come if you play it smart. The romantic in us might find this cynical, and a lot of people might be pissed off at me right now. Make sure y'all like and subscribe while you're here. But I got to tell y'all, this isn't about destroying the idea flow. Far from it. It is about being brutally honest about the environment that we are forced to see and seek companionship in. The global online dating market is a beast. It is projected to hit around $12.52 billion by the end of this year. It is a business, okay? It's not about love. It is a business. Church isn't even about religion anymore. It's about the building fund. $10 million church. I don't understand it. But this is primary goal where it's not to find your soulmate. It is to keep you engaged in the platform, preferably paying for the platform, right? The real takeaway isn't to pick a lane and start swiping for dollars. It is to become financially conscious of your dating life and then ask yourself, what the fuck is this costing me? Not just the subscription fees and the dinner tabs, but in time, mental energy, and your self esteem. What is my return on this whole investment? If dating is bringing you joy, then the cost is worth it. But if you are like 78% of the users that are feeling burnt out, that are pouring resources into a machine that is giving you little in return, if anything, it might be time to question that strategy. Maybe you don't need a sugar daddy, but you need to build a portfolio. Maybe you don't need another date, but you need another client. Maybe the most loving thing that you can do for yourself is to delete the fucking app altogether. Open up a brokerage account and invest in the one person who will always be there for you, which is you, right? The fantasy of love is beautiful. All of us have ascribed to it one way or another. But the financial freedom is a reality that you can build without restraint. The choice is yours, right? I'm incredibly curious to hear what a lot of you guys have to say about this. Which lane do you believe resonates with you the most? Is there a fourth lane that I may have missed? Let me know. Put your information into the comments. And make sure that you guys remember, if this reframed in any way, shape, or form how you think about your swipes, whether you're watching us from Twitter or Twitch or either the long form for YouTube, or even if I popped up on your shorts reel, hit that like button, hit that subscription button, hit that follow button if you're on Twitch or Twitter, and then come over to YouTube and do the same thing. Make sure you turn on those notification buttons so that you can get more deep dives into the economics of modern life, because you would not believe until you came to today's show how your decision to find somebody, how your decision to get involved in the pursuit of happiness could actually be one of the financial catalysts that is breaking your budget. You find yourself maintaining the perfect balanced budget for your standard of living, and you offset it by having a more social lifestyle. And then you find out after you've come to today's show that that extra $30,000 a year that you're making is going directly on the dating platform, whether it is the apps, whether it is the in-person engagements, whether it's the expensive gifts or the expensive events. You find yourself, out of the $80,000 that you make, $30,000 of it is going on dating, while $50,000 of your standard of living is covered for bare necessities. You find that you're putting so much into something that you're not benefiting from. Then when you withdraw from it, you're like, shit, I got so much extra money that I used to not have. Steven says, I've never done a dating app and never will. I'm from the 80s. However, this is good information to have. Well, Steven, you and I coming from the 80s, because I'm from the early 80s. We may not really feel 100% comfortable with being online because we come from an era before the internet was created, because the internet came out in 2009. And it's still, even though it's 2025, it's still in its infancy in comparison to its potential. However, the ability to communicate with another person has changed. Now, if you start, you're 36, if you talk to a 24, 25-year-old, they're going to offer their Instagram, their Snapchat, or their Facebook or something like that as a catalyst of communication. They're not even going, their phone number is no longer being offered as the first line of communication. It is like the third to fifth line of communication. You must get through from the in-person engagement, you must get through their DMs to get to the date, to get to their direct phone number, right? They like, it's almost like you only earn their phone number if they commit to you, kind of thing, right? Now, you and I, not willing to get on these dating apps, might find ourselves in a position where you're going to end up not making it on a lot of dates because you're like, well, if you're not willing to give me your direct phone number, I'm not willing to take you out on a date. And that kind of just stops the whole interaction. And that's a fantastic mentality to have. I completely condone that. I would do the same. I met you in person. I'm not trying to backtrack and go back into your DMs. I met you in person. I want to talk to you face. I want to talk to you, hear your voice on the phone. I'm not even trying to send you a text message, right? Like you text me, I'm gonna call you back, kind of thing, right? When I got time to call you back. Um, but this information here kind of raises awareness because those individuals, the men that are in their early 20s, are chock full of social media. They are heavy into it's not just the dating apps, but just social interactions. So they will connect with somebody that they've seen their profile and watch a couple of videos on TikTok, or they've seen their Snapchat, or they've seen their Instagram page, and then they reach out to the primary account. So they saw a video, or they saw a photo, or they saw a post from the person, and that brought them to the page, and then they go to the page, and then they try to connect to the person directly. I've even seen on TikTok recently where like used car companies are now putting up cars for sale. They show a whole video of the car, and then they're like, DM me for a price. Now you put a really nice looking car up there and you're like, oh yeah, it's like $8,000. How many fucking miles is on this car for it to be worth $8,000? That's got to be like 150, 200,000 miles for it to be $8,000 or $5,000 for this car. You know, a 2022 at that. Like, what? Hold on. For $5,000? Something's wrong, right? DM me. Nah, that's all right, bro. That's all right, bro. If you can't put it in the comments for everybody to see, that's all right, bro. So one of the things that we find out, because you and I, the older we get, bro, the closer we get to 45 and 55, the more social media is going to be a thing. But we have to recognize that while maintaining reservation, we will find ourselves in a position with more confidence to interact in person. And if in the event you do end up on a dating app, you're going to know how to navigate it. You're not going to utilize the app for the sole purpose of finding a connection, knowing that these apps are primarily utilized to find more leads and find more financial arrangements, right? The dating contracts stem from a joke when we first started talking about it, but the dating contracts are facilitated the same way that these sugar daddy arrangements are, is that they have a list of terms and agreements. Some people even sign contracts where, you're going to show up and you're going to be here as like a personal assistant type scenario. And whatever I need you to do, you're going to do for this price, right? While the personal assistant for pay is actionable. You didn't come to work today, you don't get paid. They can't hold you liable like, oh, she didn't sleep with me, so I didn't pay her. It's like, no, you paid me for my presence. I showed up. I was there for X number of time. You said if I'm there for X number of time, I get paid. All of these actions occur, but not a lot of people realize, well, you had a contract there. If you showed up, if you were there for the quantity of hours that you were supposed to be there, regardless of what you did or didn't do, you're supposed to get paid for being there. And if you don't get paid to be there, you can sue them and get your money back. But that's, again, the difference in leverage between knowledge versus privilege. But this also lets you understand that if you can afford it, you can actually buy yourself into a relationship. You can buy yourself into a relationship, which brings us back to the Riley theory. Why are we renting a female in a supposed to be committed relationship when you can just directly transactionalize the entire engagement? This only happens from the behavior of women demanding sex for money, not because they're advertising it as prostitution, but because if he doesn't show his financial value to me, I'm not going to sleep with him. So that means he has to spend money to get the sex. He has to buy gifts to get the sex. He has to rent her presence until she's willing to give him the sex. Even though it's consensual, the fact is that a certain quantity of money was spent before she felt comfortable with doing a deed. And before that quantity of money was spent, she didn't feel comfortable with doing a deed. Their presence, or no, their preference isn't directly tied to their emotions towards the guy. Their preference is directly tied to the capital gains from the guy. Michael says every generation has changed throughout time, especially language. To be or not to be, that is the question. Well, no, to be or not to be is not the question. Is she for the streets or not? That's the question. We talked to Shelby a couple of weeks ago, and like if the to obey part women aren't willing to accept, that's the question. For poorer part, if the women aren't willing to accept, that's the question. Because every woman is willing to sign up for all the best parts of the relationship, all of the best parts of marriage, but him being broke, unemployed, homeless, she's not signing up for that part. Him being disabled and not receiving any financial benefits, she's not really signing up for that. And then her respecting her man enough to follow his instructions while he's in the middle of taking care of something important, she's not willing to sign up for that either. But a woman won't even make you a sandwich until you put a ring on her finger. A lot of women leverage her responsibilities in the relationship as the demand for enhancements in the relationship. Some women will leverage intimacy and say, well, you ain't getting none until we get married. After you've been giving it to them for a while, to then try to fall back on traditionalism and say, oh, well, it shouldn't be sex before marriage anyway. But if you were putting out from the third date, you're not going to be in a relationship for 5 years and then cut the dude off because you haven't shown him that you're worth being a wife. One of the reasons why relationships fall apart before marriage is going to be because the wife has not crossed the threshold of being a wife. you know and I said this before, you can't touch a girlfriend with a moonstone and turn her into a wife. You can't. It's not like evolving a Pikachu. It doesn't work that way. If you were wife material and you were performing wifely duties before you got married, the same way you performed managerial positions as a non-managerial person on your job, you got promoted because of your skill set. You were behaving and performing as a manager until you got promoted to a manager. You're supposed to behave and perform like a wife before you get married. That is the promotion. You become the wife, not just because you make him feel good. You become the wife because you earned it. If you didn't earn it, that's why he didn't propose. Even monkeys use sex as leverage. Monkeys, donkeys, exactly. But that's the point though. That's the point though. So we're in a position where since this has become the culture in Western culture, this is going to be one of the reasons why a lot of people are flooding to Eastern culture that still has the traditional concepts, and it is ingrained in the entire culture. You might find yourself spending a couple of years in another culture, find yourself a partner 6 months into being into that other culture, stay with that partner for 3 or 4 months, and then move them back to America. Women aren't going to like that. Some people might move out of America and be like, fuck that. It is so much cheaper where I am right now. And that's fine. That's fine. That is fine. But the dynamic is, uh, if in the event that um this situation is going to be what it is, we've got to look at it for exactly that: the ability to make ourselves more successful in the relationship, through the relationship, for the rest of our lives. We cannot leverage our resources as men for the sake of companionship, just for the sake of having somebody next to us. But as we showed you today, this is a dynamic where if you can afford it and you're not willing to invest in genuine connection, you can rent a hoe. I mean, a companion. Because they're out there, and women can do the same thing. There are dudes out there that's like, sure, for the right price, I'll show up and pretend like I'm your boy toy. But like I said before, the longer that you can pretend like you care about somebody that you don't, the harder it is for you to genuinely identify when you truly do care about somebody. And the more that you're pretending like you care about somebody that you don't, the harder it is for you to find somebody that can care about you the way you want to be cared about, because you're already in a complicated situation with somebody that you genuinely do not care about. Because again, like I told you, the other downside to this is going to be your personal reputation. If you're connected to another person, society doesn't know your arrangement. They're going to assume that you're attached to that person. Every time you go out in public and you're seen with that person, they're going to assume that you're with that person. Then when they see you with another person, then they start observing your promiscuous behavior. Then when they see you with another person, then they realize there's no loyalty for you, male or female. No woman is going to want to connect themselves to a man that is seen with multiple other women when women are selfishly desiring exclusive access to the man's resources. And no woman is going to be uh, uh, e- collected by any man that is looking for exclusivity. And she is seen with multiple dudes, and every man assumes that if she's with that guy, she's sleeping with that guy. So if she's with 8 guys in the last week, she's sleeping with all 8 guys, which means that there's no value in her, right? So all of this comes at a cost. So yeah, you might be able to turn over a salary. You might be able to find a way to cover some of your bills and stuff. But at the end of the day, your self worth is going to be a downhill cataclysm, almost equivalent to OnlyFans girls. Men that seek value do not seek that value in retired OnlyFans girls. She says it's just work. Yeah, but it's the kind of work that makes me no longer interested. You imagine an OnlyFans girl like one of those demolition derby cars. Who's buying a demolition derby car after they fuck that car up? Hell no. Who's marrying an OnlyFans girl? Usually not. It can happen, but usually not. He said, "There's something outside. All the fraud stuff, complete and utter silence." But that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. The dynamic is ridiculous. Okay, it is ridiculous. But once we start paying attention to these kind of things, that's when we really start changing the way we do what we do. That's when we start changing how we address the way we interact with one another. But it started with me raising that awareness. And as we walk out, this is what I tell you guys on a regular basis, ladies. As long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I'm going to give y'all this information to make y'all higher value men. Y'all need to change your decision making skills. So find the things in your life. He said, "I'm glad I have a fence. I'm glad I've got a pistol. I don't need a fence. The fence gets in the way of hitting my target. I want to make sure that I can knock my target clean without having to replace my fence." But fellas, you have to change your decision making. You have to be able to prioritize the things in your life that you can control and change the things that you don't like, and then navigate around the things that you can. We are not going to change the way women behave, but we will navigate around that behavior and only allow ourselves to entertain the women that we value. And we should only value the women that value us. So that does not mean that we're going to disrespect them or devalue them or depreciate them, but we will not entertain behavior patterns that are not acceptable to our expectations. I should not have to argue with her about her outfit. If I don't like it and you're not changing that, we're not going to continue to communicate with one another because I'm not going to go without you. You're not going to go without me. If this isn't going to work out, if I don't like the way you're dressing when we're together, then this is kind of like the best way to kind of like end it from here because we're not going to start with disagreeing with that to major decisions like what kind of house we're going to have, major decisions like what are we going to teach the kids. If we can't even agree about you being conservative in a relationship, then we're not going to agree about anything that has anything to do with the legacy. So fellas, we have to make sure that we're redesigning ourselves to prioritize our own individual observations. He says screen owls or screeching owls, you would soar a woman was being killed. Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because see, the reason why I don't think so is because she would have probably went with the bear. And because you're not hearing a bear growl, it's probably not a woman. Because if it was a woman, you know, the bear would be in danger. Now, ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourself high value women by utilizing this information. Primarily taking this information and utilizing it to change your mentality, change how you're interacting with men, changing how you're allowing men to interact with you. Because by raising your standards, you have to raise your performance to meet your standards. Because if you're demanding higher value men, you're demanding more successful men, you must carry yourself as a woman that is going to be more respectable towards that man, that is going to be more appreciative and reciprocable towards those men. And if you're not willing to change your performance, if you're going to behave the way the low value men would accept, then you're only going to be able to attract lower value men. He says, still silence. Something is out by the marsh. Hey, that's all right. Leave it out there. The frogs are coming back. Hey, tell the frogs to make sure they like and subscribe. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and walk it out with that, y'all. I wanna thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. We got a big show coming up for you. Make sure you guys check out the membership. There's a lot of information that I'm putting in for the rest of the month of March. So you guys are gonna see a lot of details folding out. I want to make sure that y'all thank you again for coming to this and that. I'm your host Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.